Justin Fuller here, and I'm outside of a 2021 Honda CR-V LX. So it's the entry-level model. So today we're gonna compare this to the other makes and models out there. So we're gonna look at the competition, and then of course, hey, if I wanna go from this LX right up to that EX, what am I gonna gain? And then lastly, let's talk about how this stacks up compared to the 2020 model. So let's hop on in. All right, guys, so let's talk about what's underneath the hood of this vehicle. So as I pull you in, I want to point out that this has a 1.5-liter turboed engine, which you'll actually find on all the trim levels of this car. By getting the base model or even the top end, you're getting the exact same engine in the vehicle. Now, this puts out 190 horsepower, which transfers over to that CVT transmission, which eventually comes out to these 17-inch alloy wheels that are sitting right outside of the car. Now, underneath the hood, let's talk about a few things. One, I've got brake distribution right here, so just so you know what that is. My windshield wiper fluids and then my radiator fluids. As we wrap around, I'll point out that you do have a dipstick down here that you can get to. And then as you come across, you've got a lot of room across the back. So if you wanted to add auxiliary lights, run wiring for amps and subs and things like that, you've got the space to do it. Of course, I have my air box, and then lastly, I have the access to my battery terminals, so I can get to both terminals exceptionally easy, so it's not buried or tucked away. And then lastly, my fuse box is gonna be located right here. Now, when we're talking about this car, I want to pause for a second and just talk to you about what else is out there on the market. So I'm going to throw up some comparisons up on the screen so that you can compare the horsepower first and really understand, hey, is this underpowered, overpowered, or does it live right where it should in the market? Now, after we look at that, I want to take a look at miles per gallon. So I'm going to throw up not only this car, but some comparisons of other vehicles out there so that you can understand, hey, if I'm buying this car, I'm getting this 190 horsepower, what am I getting for my gas mileage, and how does it compete against the other models out there? Now, while that's up on the screen, I will remind you that whether you're looking at a 21 or you're looking at the 2020, this is going to be the exact same engine and transmission that's been in the car for the last few years. So you're not losing or gaining anything dropping down a model if you find a certified pre-owned that maybe fits your budget a little bit better. All right, guys, so as we walk around the car, I want to point out a couple features. First off, being a base model, you will notice that your mirrors are not body colored, along with your door handles additionally too. So both of these are going to be black as opposed to the body colored that you would get by going up a model. Now, you do have these 17-inch wheels that I was just talking about a little bit ago. So it is an alloy wheel. It's not a steel hubcap cover kind of situation that you would have seen in previous years. Now, as we come up to the front of the car, you'll notice that you have your LED daytime running lights, of course, in your halogen beam setup as far as your headlights. Now, down below, you will not have a fog light in this car. You would need to climb models to get that, but I just want to remind you that it is available to you. Now, as we wrap around to the front end and the grille, I will point out that you, of course, have this honeycomb setup down below, and you'll notice right below the Honda emblem, you're gonna see right here this pad. That's actually a radar system set up for Honda sensing, which I'll talk about here in just a second. Now, as we come up over the car and we talk about more Honda sensing, right up here, you're gonna see a trapezoid that's cut out of the tin up there. Now, that's where the camera is for Honda sensing. Now, related to Honda sensing, let's talk about some of those features. So the first being a collision mitigation braking system, which uses this down here, right? So if it's looking like I'm gonna rear end another car, what it's gonna do is first it'll give me an audible alert, then it'll flash on the dash, and then it'll actually start to apply the brakes to help prevent the accident. And how it's seeing that car is using that radar to bounce it off the car in front of me. Now, additionally, you have what's called lane departure mitigation, right? So you have a lane keep assist system. Meaning that if I start to drift to the left or the right, what it'll do is keep me centered in my lane. And what it's doing is it's using that camera up top that I was talking about to detect those lines out there on the road. Now, outside of that, you have road departure mitigation. Now, that's set up to where if I drive off the shoulder of the road, like I'm getting drowsy, it'll actually start to vibrate the wheel and give me an audible alert to let me know, hey, wake up, pay attention, you're driving off the road. So these are some of the safety features you have built into this car. Now, additionally, you do have 6 airbags in the car, so 2 front, 2 side coming out of the beams right here, and then 2 full curtain running the extent of the glass with rollover sensors. So if you start to roll the car, even though you haven't hit anybody, it will give you an audible alert, or excuse me, it will roll those out just to help protect you. Now, the car also has what's called ACE body structure, which if you're not familiar with what it's designed to do is it has crinkle zones set up all over the car. So the engine struts are designed to drop the engine out and shove it down underneath so it doesn't come up through the passengers. And then of course you have crinkle zones to push everything out and around so you're protecting all that precious cargo, whether it be your family, your dogs, your friends, or you yourself, right? Now, let's move around to the back of the car and talk about that. Now, you've got these nice big light setup system here, so it should be very visible when you're hitting your brake lights or when you're throwing it in reverse to let people know, hey, I'm coming back. And then, of course, the car is badged. This is the Radiant Red, so this is a $395 ad that Honda's done now, which you'll see on some of the color themes for the vehicle, which, come on, Honda, really? this is one of the things that sets you apart from Toyota, but I understand if they're playing in the market, that's how they're gonna do it. So let's pop open the tailgate and talk about that. All right, guys, so here we are at the back end of the vehicle, and I've got the tailgate flipped up. So as I pull you in, I will remind you that this is not a powered tailgate. You would have to climb models to get that. But as we move in, I wanna show you a couple different things. First, the car does come with carpeted floor mats. That is standard, so you don't have to worry about paying extras for those. So let's get that out of the way. And then of course you can see I have this kind of setup right here where it's got a lip finish. I can also make that flush if I want by pulling this out, and I can actually adjust this. So we'll see if I can do this with one hand here. Yeah, so there we go. So I can get this nice and flush if I need to. That way, if I was throwing something flat in there, I could absolutely do that. Now, while we're talking about this, I want to pick this up and show you a couple things. One, you do have your full diameter spare, meaning it's the full height, just not the full width. And then I've got my jack and all my accessories, and then I've got this small funnel that we'll come to here in just a second. Now, while we're back here, you do have two handles that you can pull. So if I pull these handles, I can throw my seats down for me. So it just makes life a little bit easier if I need to load stuff up. So you can see that I have this set flush right now, right? So you can understand if I was camping or things went awry and I needed to sleep in my car, I could absolutely do it. And to prove it, let's take a look. Did I have to do this shot? No, I didn't. But did I want to lay down on the job? Maybe I did, but just to prove that you could do it. So I'm a 6-footer, and as you can see, I am diagonal, right? So if I bent my legs a little bit, I could absolutely fit myself in absolutely with no problem. Now, if there was two of us, would things get a little tight? Maybe. But of course, I could fill this gap back here and be able to slide myself up some, and then suddenly I wouldn't have to worry about it. And guess what's right here by me? The air vents. So if I need to crank the car on to heat it up or cool it off, I'd have those right next to my head. How fantastic would that be? So before we leave the back end of the car, I want to throw up on the screen a comparison so that you can understand what the cargo space is like in this vehicle compared to some of the other vehicles out there on the market. Now, if you're going up to the EX or if you're jumping back to a 2020, it would make absolutely no difference. They're gonna have the exact same storage space, so you don't have to worry about that. It's really about, hey, what else is out there on the market and how do we compete? All right, guys, so here we are in the second row of this vehicle. And the first thing I want to point out is that I have this seat in front of me pushed at almost all the way back because I'm a 6-footer. And I wanted to know, hey, if I'm sitting behind me, would I have comfort and space? And the answer is absolutely yes. Now, technically this seat's 3 back here, but would I want to do it on a long trip? Probably not, probably just 2. But if we were just taking a trip right around the corner to maybe a restaurant, yeah, I could squeeze a 3rd person in here. Now I want to talk about the stitching in the seats. So I love that they've done this with the stitching. So you've got this kind of nice stitch to it in the center. I think it's a little bit sportier look, and surprisingly, it is very comfortable. Usually when you're looking at base models, it's not that comfortable material, but this is. And you've got almost like a suede finish right here where your elbows land, and you'll find that same finish right over here in the center console that slides forward. Now over here, I will point out that it's always black across the top, and that's to prevent glare. So you're gonna see that throughout the vehicle. You do have some extra storage space down here, and of course you do have air vents for your passengers in the back. All right, guys, so before we leave the second row of this car, I want to talk to you about legroom and some comparisons to other vehicles out there on the market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it up on the screen to where you can see a comparison of not only the CR-V's legroom in the second row, but some additional vehicles out there that would normally compete against. So take a look at that, and then we'll move on up to the front row of the vehicle. All right, guys, so here we are at the front row of the vehicle, and I'm going to pull you in and talk to you about this. So the first thing I want to point out is that not only your driver but passenger seat are both going to be manual adjustments, meaning that yes, you can slide them forward and backwards, and you can lower and you can raise them, but it is a manual adjustment. If you're looking for that powered seat in the driver's side, you're gonna wanna climb models. Now, while we're talking about that, I also wanna point out your key, right? So I'm gonna shut the door real quick and just point out that it is a classic key. So I can unlock and lock, and of course I can unlock the tailgate, it doesn't open it, and then I can set up the alarm for the vehicle. So know that you're not getting like a push button start. It is gonna be a standard key start, which I'd love to see in the base model, but I understand it's a base model, you gotta cut costs somewhere. So let's hop on in the car and talk more about it. So let's talk about the dash and a few of the instrument buttons and different things that you're gonna see here. So I'm gonna start you over here on the left side and just point out some of those buttons we talked about earlier. So collision mitigation braking is what I mentioned earlier, where if it's looking like you're gonna rear in another car, first it'll give you an audible alert, then it'll flash in the dash, and then it'll actually apply the brakes to help prevent the accident. Now above that is road departure mitigation. So you can see that this one's on because the LED is lit up. Now the one below it is always gonna stay on unless you press and hold to turn that off. Now road departure mitigation is what I mentioned earlier, where if I'm starting to drive off the shoulder of the road, it'll give me an audible alert and actually shake the wheel to let me know, hey, wake up, pay attention. Maybe you're getting drowsy and drive off the side. Now next to that is vehicle stability assist. This works with your traction control. So in the event that you go into a skid, it'll transfer power to whichever wheel is getting better traction in the vehicle. Now as we come up onto the steering wheel, let's talk about this. So on the left side, you're gonna find a lot of your menu buttons and the volume controls. So volume controls is right here, and then my menu button right here is gonna control what you see pop up on the screen up here as I toggle through. Now, once I've entered a screen, I can use these different arrow buttons to kind of move around in it. So we'll go over that menu in just a second. And then my Bluetooth controls are right here, so to answer a call, to hang up or go back out of a menu, and then my voice command to say like call so-and-so, that sort of thing. So let's talk about this menu. So I'm gonna press this button and let's come on up. All right, so I quickly just wanna walk you through what the different buttons are on here. So the first one you can enter is just gonna be a range, so it'll give you 200 174 miles on this tank of gas, and then your average fuel consumption. Now, as you move over one, you can click onto this, and this is just giving you average speed, elapsed time, so a little bit more about your driving habits. Now, the next one is an attention monitor. So as you use some of these different safety features, like adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist, you may not be touching the wheel or the gas or the brake that much, and this will start to alert you if it notices that you don't seem to be as responsive as you might should be. Now, next, you're gonna move over into your oil life. So if you want to see what it's at, and when it gets to 15%, you'll get an audible alert. It'll give you a code there, and then you can check that code. That way you know what they're going to recommend to you. Oops, so it looks like I pressed the button while we're doing that. So, all right, let's move to the next one here. All right, so settings, this is where I can get into some of my vehicle settings. So if I want to access things like my door locks or calibrate my TPMS, which is your tire pressure monitoring system. So different options that you can get into. So a perfect example of door setup here. I'll just touch on this real quick. My door locks, right? So the way they're set up right now, when I hit 10 miles an hour, it'll automatically lock the doors. If I wanted to change that, I could absolutely do that right there. Now, if I back out of that, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna exit out of that, go down one, door unlocked. So this is set up to where when I open my driver's side door, the remaining doors will then unlock in the car. I can change that right here too. So a simple thing that you can play with as far as your door locks goes, which a lot of people don't necessarily know that it's right here and easily accessible, right? So plenty of different systems that you can look through here, but I'm gonna jump back out of that. All right. So let's keep on moving along here. So the next one, it would be miles per hour to kilometers per hour if you want to switch that, and then you're back to your beginning start point. Now on the right side of the steering wheel is some additional Honda sensing features that I mentioned earlier. So the first being, if I press this main button right here, you're gonna see LKS and ACC kind of flashing at me. So that's just me pressing it to let you know where it's at. So that stands for Adaptive Cruise Control and Lane Keep Assist. So Lane Keep Assist is right here. When I press this button, you're gonna see dotted lines appear up here. Now those will fill in solid when you're going over 45 miles an hour. And what it's doing is it's using that camera that I pointed out in the windshield to detect those lines out there on the road. So when it catches them and now it's reading them, if I start to drift to the left or the right and I don't have my blinker on, it's gonna help keep me centered and kind of steer the wheel. So it feels like if you've ever been in a car that pulls a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. That's how this works. So if you don't use your blinkers, this is probably not gonna be a feature that you wanna use. Now, instead of Lane Keep Assist, let's talk about Adaptive Cruise Control. So when I get up to my speed, I would press set. From there, I can press this button right here with a picture of a car. And that's gonna create boxes up here, right, when I'm using it. So the way that's gonna work is as I press and use those boxes, so let me switch over to the ACC mode, which I'll show you how to switch back and forth. But as you see the boxes, that means the more boxes, the more space it's gonna keep between me and the car in front of me, right? So if I'm going 65 and the guy in front of me slows down to 55, it's gonna slow down and keep that spacing until I get out and around him, and then it'll take me back up to my speed. Now, if you're saying to yourself, I just want classic cruise control, Justin, I don't wanna mess with all that, just press and hold. Cruise mode selected, now I'm in just classic. If I press and hold again, now I'm back to the adaptive cruise control. So easy enough, you're just pressing that button right there. All right, so let's talk about the LCD screen on this car. So one, it's not a touchscreen. If you're looking for that, you want to climb up models to the EX. But to talk about it, just to get you are looking for a very basic setup, this might work out great for you. So to access my radio, of course, I have FM 1 and 2 and then AM, right? So I can toggle between those. And then my media. So as far as getting to Pandora, if I want to go Bluetooth or if I want to plug into my USB, which is right down here. Or if I want to access my phone, right? So it's accessing, if you want to go Bluetooth via that route. Or I can just plug into something to the USB device, right? So if I had a drive, I could put a bunch of music on it and I could plug that right down here and I could access that. So some different things you can do even in the base model. So once you've connected up your phone, you would be able to access that right here. Now, if I want to connect up a phone, how would I do that? I'll toggle over here and go to yes, I'd like to add a new device. I want to add a different one from this iPhone right here. From there, I would then go into my phone, which I'll show you how to do here. Right, so I would want to pair a new device. Now I'm on an Android-based phone, so I can show you what this looks like. So it's going to look a little bit different depending on if you're in an iPhone or if you're in an Android-based phone. From there, it'll search. Once one of the two finds each other, I select it and we connect up. All right, so now that I've got my phone set up, I can obviously jump in, go to my call history, my phone book, and be able to access any of those things so you can see that it's importing it right now. So let's jump back out of that and just talk about the equalizer, which is right here. So while we're talking about this, you have a 4-speaker system in this vehicle. So if you're wanting to get 6 speakers or you're wanting to get that sub, you're gonna need to climb models. So just keep that in mind, this is a base model, right? So I've got a back button here if I wanna jump out of any of those. And then if I wanna jump into a menu to play with maybe the clock or any of these other settings that I can access, whether it be Bluetooth, if I wanna add a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th phone, display adjustments, my rear camera, and then of course display change. So I've got plenty of things that I can play with in here under this. Now, moving down, my AC control is a singular one, meaning that it's not dual. It's not separate control left and right, separate of each other. So you have hot or cold on this side, and then how much air on this side, and then where you want the air to go along with your defrost. Now, under here, you're gonna see that my parking brake is electronic, so to set it, I just lift with my foot on the brake, and to release, press down to release it. Now, on the other side, this is gonna be a newer feature. We have the idle start-stop in this vehicle, meaning that I can come up to a stoplight, be sitting there, and it'll actually turn off the engine to maintain and improve gas mileage. I'm not a huge fan of this feature just because I feel like it's a little wonky, but it exists in a lot of the cars, and if you want to turn it off, you can press the button to turn it off, but every time you turn the car off and turn it back on, you're gonna need to press that button again. Now, the Econ button right here is set up to where if I press that, you are gonna see a green leaf appear up here in the dash. What it's gonna do, improve gas mileage, but in doing so, your gas pedal, you're not gonna have quite as much off of that, and your AC unit is gonna blow quite as hard, so it's gonna limit and affect some of the electrical systems in the car to help improve the gas mileage of the car. So that's the Econ button. Over here, brake hold. So brake hold is set up to where if I'm in drive, which I am now, I can press the brake hold button, right? So right now you can see my foot's on the brake. If I release it while the car's in drive, we're not moving, right? So once I press the gas, you're gonna see this little hold button go away down here, right? So now I'm moving forward. When I come to a complete stop again, the hold button will pop back on, and now it's holding it so I can release my foot while we're in drive. So this is great if you're in like stop and go traffic, or maybe you're in a drive-through line, but remember, you do have to have your seatbelt on, so if you take this off, it will disengage this feature, which you'll hear it do in a second. It'll probably beep at me. It immediately throws the parking brake on to kind of let you know, hey, I threw this on so you wouldn't roll in front of you, but you've disengaged the feature. So I'm gonna throw this car back in park and turn the parking brake off. Now, down below, I pointed out that you, of course, do have the USB, and then the standard setup as far as, you know, a sliding armrest here, and then some additional storage here that I can fold up. So if I wanted to put like a tissue box or maybe throw a small purse or clutch in there, I absolutely could. All right, so that is the front. Other than that, it's what I call normal new car stuff. You know, your normal stuff that you would kind of expect. If you want that moonroof, you're gonna need to climb models. I will point out though that you do have a backup camera on this car, so you can see that right there. So if I'm backing up, I've got a few different views that I can use, so I can toggle between these. This is aimed straight down. So I love this view, and you'll see this dotted line. That's about 6 inches from your car, and then you got 2.5 to 3 feet from the solid line. So this one's great if I'm backing up to like another car, a curb, a bush, or a fence, which is what I have right behind me right now. So as I come around here, I can start to see exactly where I'm getting, because what'll happen is I look out the back and I'm like, man, I'm pretty close to that fence, but I don't know exactly how close. I can look over here and really start to see, oh, okay, I can see that curb now and where that fence is appearing. So I can look at this on all these views, right? So it's just super helpful if you're backing up to a garage, a bush, a pole, you live in, or you park in a parking garage, so you can see the applications for this. All right, guys, so that's the quick rundown to the 2021 Honda CR-V. Realistically, if you're looking at a base model, there's not really much of a difference between the LX and a 21 or a 20, other than that idle stop start feature, and there's an extra $395 depending on the color you want on the outside of the car. So when it comes to that, if you could find maybe a 2020 that's still new, or one that's pre-owned with super low mileage, might be worth your money. Now, outside of that, comparing it to other vehicles out there on the market. So I'm gonna go back and do a couple things for you. So let's review. First, we're gonna talk about gas mileage. So I'm gonna throw the comparison back up on the screen there so you can see how it competes against all the other vehicles out there in the market. So after we look at that, we're gonna talk about horsepower. So this car gets 190 horsepower up to that CVT transmission, right? So I'm gonna throw a comparison up on the screen for that so you can see how it competes against all those other cars out there in the market. And then a reminder again, in the 2020 and the 2021, it's the exact same drivetrain and everything, so nothing's changed mechanically in the car. Now, after that, we talked about cargo space, so I'll throw that back up there so you can see that and really understand, hey, how does it compete with cargo space? And then after that, we're gonna go to the second row, right? So let's talk about the legroom one more time. I'm gonna throw that back up on the screen there so that you can really get an understanding of that. So know that you can always pause as we go through this. And then in the front, if I can find anything for legroom up here, I'll absolutely throw that up. Now, related to this car, I will tell you for 26, I wanna say 850 is what the LX model starts for. It's a fantastic car. It's one of the top selling retail compact SUVs out there in the market. The car does really well. It doesn't run into a lot of issues, and in a base model, you're giving up a lot of the things that would typically maybe have issues, right? Less to break if there's less in the car. A lot of people view it that way. But other than that, if you want to climb models, I'll show you what you would gain if you climb up to that EX model. And additionally, I'll also show you, hey, if I climb up to the X model, I'm getting all these features, what is it going to cost me extra? So both of those will be up on the screen together for you to check out. Now, with that said, if I was looking at other cars on the market, I really do like the CR-V a lot. When I sold these cars, I sold a lot of them because it just makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. When you're getting in and out of the car, it's very lateral transitions. You're not climbing up into the car, you're not climbing down. So for people with bad knees or older folks, this car makes a lot of sense. Now, if you're an active young person, this car makes a lot of sense because one, it gets great gas mileage if you're taking road trips, and two, you've got a good amount of cargo space back there, and you can throw down those seats flat if you wanted to camp or do anything, you know, related to that kind of topic. You can, of course, throw racks on top of the car, so if you want to go skiing, snowboarding, or whatever it may be, you have that option. And the car is offered an all-wheel drive model. Now, as far as jumping all-wheel drive, I think it's $1,000 or $1,500 more, but I'll throw it up on the screen because I can't remember, and just know that it's there. Other than that, hopefully you liked the video. So I'm gonna ask you to do me a few favors. One, press the like button for me. It just makes me feel good inside. Do it for me. And then second, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Did I miss something? Is there something you wish I would have went over? Let me know. If there's something you want to hear about or you have questions, feel free to reach out. I usually try to check this and answer as quick as I can. Now, lastly, will you share the video for me? Share it. You got some friends in a CRV group? Maybe they're on Facebook? I don't know. Share with them. Let me know, because I'm hoping that maybe they'll comment too and let me know if I'm missing something or forgetting something. Things like warranties, which somebody brought up. This car gets a 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty, and then it gets a 5-year or 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. So your basic coverage is 3 years, 36, and then 5 years, 60 is like your engine transmission. So all the main components that drive the car. So just something to remember if you're looking at that. And then you also have 3 years of 36,000 miles of roadside assistance. So know that you have that available to you too. So somebody asked about warranties, there you go. Other than that, press the like button, share the video, leave me a comment, and I don't know, I don't got a 4, but I hope that it's good if I get one. So later, guys!